What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Gate Guardian support that was announced for Maze of Memories. Now, if you're like me and a big Gate Guardian fan, you are likely pretty excited about this. I am definitely of the mindset that, this stuff was not going to be game-changing, and it wasn't going to suddenly put Gate Guardian into, the ABC meta status, but Gate Guardian is one of Yu-Gi-Oh's most iconic monsters. It is an absolutely badass design, and I've always thought it deserved to have more support and playability, especially considering its legacy in the game. So I'm very, very happy to see the new support here. Now, I have read over a lot of it prior to the start of this video, and unfortunately, you'll notice this is a little different than my usual formatting for these types of videos, because there are no clear images of the cards themselves that I was able to, have. So we're just going to go through Yu-Gi-Oh! Org's, website effects for each one, and I'll give you guys just sort of, my kind of, candid thoughts on them. I'm really excited about it, like I said, and hopefully you guys are too. But before we get into that any further, if you guys do enjoy the video and the conversation, please hit the like button and subscribe. Click the bell icon to stay notified to the channel to be updated with new videos. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. So all of this is in Maze of Memories. This is the next world premiere TCG exclusive type set following Toon Chaos and King's Court. And this set is set to release, I believe, a week from Friday. So they did not waste, they waited till almost the last possible minute to give us these reviews. But a lot of YouTubers got their hands on the product and opened it up. And so we've seen some reprints and stuff. And we'll talk about that in another video, the reprints and everything. But right now, we're just strictly focusing on these cards. So let's go through them. Starting off first with Labyrinth Heavy Tank. Really, really cool artwork on this redesigned version of Labyrinth Tank. And it says, level 7 Dark Machine Effect Monster, attack 24, defense 24. You can normal summon this card without tributing, but it cannot attack during the turn it is normal summoned. During your main phase, you can take a Sangha of the Thunder, Kazajan, or Suijin that is banished or in your hand or deck, face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. Then, if you control a Labyrinth Wall card, you can destroy one monster your opponent controls. You can only use this effect of Labyrinth Heavy Tank once per turn. Now, going forward in this video, I'm just going to substitute the Sangha, Kazajan, and Suijin. We're just going to call them elementals for the sake of making it less reading and less to listen to. But yeah, so basically, during the main phase, you take one of the 3 elementals from the deck or banished area, put it in your spell and trap zone, a la Crystal Beasts, and then you can pop something. But what's interesting to note is that this basically gets around some of the bricking that comes with those guys, because instead of having to draw them and keep them in your hand, you can put them in your spell and trap zone, and they still count as being controlled. So it is kind of a neat workaround to sort of lift a little bit of the burden that comes with those restrictions. But this guy, pretty good. The not being able to attack is a bit of an annoying restriction, but it's not a terrible card for the archetype. There really hasn't even been much of a chance to actually play around with these cards on any of the simulators just yet, but I'm definitely excited to do it, similar to what I did with Gold Pride, and will likely share you guys my thoughts and sort of deck stuff as I get a chance to actually play with them. But Labyrinth Heavy Tank is the first one, and it's not too bad. Now, Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth is the next one. This artwork is insanely cool. It is obviously a significantly redone version of the original Shadow Ghoul, but I love that artwork. It might be my favorite out of all of these. And it says, level 5 Dark Zombie Effect Monster, attack 16, defense 13. You can discard this card, add one Labyrinth Wall card from your deck to your hand. At the start of the damage step, if your monster an opponent controls battles while you control a Labyrinth Wall, you can banish this card from your graveyard, destroy that opponent's monster. You can only use each effect of Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth once per turn. So discard to search a Labyrinth Wall, and I think there's a couple of new Labyrinth Wall type cards, or cards that could consider that way, so this at least has some targets. This is relatively lackluster by comparison, but the artwork alone is pretty sweet. I just don't have the highest hopes for that. Gate Guardian Combined. This is insane. Obviously a retrained version of Gate Guardian as a fusion monster. Just really, really cool artwork and attention to detail, seeing these old iconic elementals come together. This is a level 12 Dark Warrior fusion monster with 3750 attack and 3400 defense, and it needs, obviously, Sangha, Kazajan, and Suijin, one of each elemental. Must be special summoned from your extra deck by banishing the above cards from your hand, field, and or graveyard. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets one or more cards you control, quick effect. You can negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. You can only use this effect of Gate Guardians Combined thrice per turn. If this face-up special summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon one level 11 or lower Gate Guardian monster from your deck or extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. This is our first big retrain. This is really, really neat on the surface because it can be summoned way easier than the regular Gate Guardian. Obviously, you can banish these from the grave, similar to ABC Dragon Buster, but you can also banish from field, so if you get them in the spell and trap zone, it does not say above monsters you control, it just says above cards, so as long as they're on your field in any way, you can banish this. But the protection effect is not all that great considering the scope of cards you have to play in order to get it out. So the targeting protection is definitely not bad, and being able to do it up to 3 times per turn is certainly better than if it was once, but it is a little annoying to get around, and if your opponent does manage to get around it, it does float into any of the other Gate Guardian fusions, or just the straight-up Gate Guardian himself, so there is that to kind of act as a bit of a silver lining, I guess. It's definitely a card you would play, if anything, because of how easy he is to summon, but other than that, nothing revolutionary with him. Where it really starts to get into the impressive cards is the individual, two-piece fusion monsters. So we've got Gate Guardian of Thunder and Wind. Apologies if the picture looks blurry. That is not my recording software or anything. That is just the best quality pictures I was able to find at this point. This is a level 9 Light Thunder fusion, 2500 attack, 2200 defense, and it needs Sangha and Kazujin. Must be a special summon from the extra deck by banishing the above cards you control. During your main phase, you can add 1 spell or trap from your deck to your hand that mentions one of the elementals. You can only use this effect of this card once per turn. If this face-up special summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon one of your banished Sangha of the Thunder or Kazujin. So let's talk about a few things quick here. Being able to special this by banishing the above cards you control is definitely neat because, again, the aforementioned ability to put them in the spell and trap zone, making it easier. You don't have to hard summon Sangha, Kazujin, Suijin, which is nice. The fact that this doesn't allow you to banish from graveyard or hand like the big one does, I understand it kind of, because as you start to see a few of these other ones, the effects are really powerful, and it would almost be kind of abusively broken if you could just keep, like, banishing them from grave, looping them back. At the same time, though, given the bricks it requires you to play, I don't think it would be, like, game breaking in any way, but I kind of understand the logic behind it. So this is easy to make. It gives you some spell and trap searches, which we're going to look at in a minute, and then of course if it does die, you can bring a Sangha or Kazujin back. And my favorite part about all of this is it looks like you really only need to play 1 copy of each of the core elementals, and you shouldn't have to worry too much about any more than that because of the recursion, because of the ability to get them all back. Even if the opponent like banishes them with something, you do have plenty of ways to get them back, which is obviously a nice thing to see, because you're already having to play these bricks. It's not super fun. Gate Guardian of Wind and Water. This is the fusion of Suijin and Kazujin, and it is also a level 9 monster. It is 2450 attack and 2300 defense, and it must be special summon by banishing the above cards you control. But here's where it gets wild. Once per chain, when your opponent activates a spell, trap card, or effect on the field, quick effect, you can negate that effect. You can use this effect up to twice per turn. If this face-up special summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, special summon one of your banished Kazujin or Suijin. So this is a twice per turn spell or trap effect negation on the field, and it is not super hard to summon. This is a really, really solid fusion, and probably the best one of them, but it works, kind of in conjunction with the big guy if you were somehow able to get him out as well as that. But the big Gate Guardian can also float into this, which means if your opponent gets over it, you can still kind of like individually be able to negate things. This just twice per turn spell and trap negation is not anything to scoff at, especially when, that's just what the game has shifted towards, is a lot of negates or like combo type things where you're setting up an end board. And this is definitely one of the best end board pieces you can get early on with this deck. So I do think this is a really, really solid card. Next, we've got Gate Guardian of Water and Thunder. This one, the fusion of Suijin and Sangha, and I really, really like the artwork on it. Must be special summon with the extra deck by banishing the above cards you control. Once per chain, quick effect, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, change its attack to 0 until the end of the turn. You can only use this effect up to twice per turn, and then, of course, if it's removed from the field by an opponent's card, you special summon one of your banished monsters. So, another decent disruptor, not as good, but it certainly could help push for OTK damage, among other things, and at least, being on the board does give you the option to, hit for 2550. It's not as good as the Wind and Water fusion, and I'm not even sure that it's as good as the Thunder and Wind, but it's still neat to have access to, and obviously, because they're all floaters, they certainly have that to their benefit. Moving on to the spells, we've got Labyrinth, Wall, Shadow. I don't know how easy it is to see the art here, but this is a beautiful card too. This is a field spell that says monsters cannot attack during the turn they are summoned, except monsters whose original level is 5 or higher. Once per turn during your main phase, you can place one of your elementals that is banished or in your hand or deck face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. At the start of your opponent's battle phase, you can target one monster your opponent controls with less than 1600 attack, destroy it. This has got to be playing on the Paradox Brothers Labyrinth stuff from in the anime, but what I really like about it is being able to get a card from anywhere and put it in the Spell and Trap zone. Again, if you banish your stuff for fusion materials, you can then just grab them, put them back with this, and then start working towards going into another fusion. Not to mention, this is not a hard once per turn, so if you do have multiple copies, you can use it more than once, and you'd be able to take, set up for additional fusion monsters, with the ideal hand. That's assuming you could play through negates. The not being able to attack the turn they're summoned really doesn't impact you if you're playing this deck, but it certainly can be a bit of an annoyance to the opponent, especially because it does include links and Xyz and everything else in that. It's just only monsters with a level of 5 or higher can attack the turn they're summoned, so it basically gives them, like, summoning sickness. And then the last effect is really not going to come into play all that often. However, if you do combo it with the new fusion, make the attack 0, and then pop something, it's just that doesn't really feel like it's ever really going to get to that point. The opponent's just probably not going to enter the battle phase. If they don't have a way to out this stuff, it's pretty easy to see this there, so they're going to want to get that off the board, I would imagine. Double Attack, Wind and Thunder is another really cool, just the artwork on these are so cool and nostalgic. It's a quick play spell, and it says, if you control a Gate Guardian monster, target one card on the field, destroy it. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, add one of your elementals that is banished or in your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. So, popping something if you control a Gate Guardian monster, especially with how easy it can be to bring out the new fusions, is pretty good. And then a search from deck just by banishing, also pretty good. Just a solid card that you definitely would want to make use of in the deck, and especially because you don't want to be playing too many bricks. Ryuryoku Guardian. I never thought I'd see Ryuryoku come back to just sort of like getting a new card or a retrain, but here we are. And this is a normal spell. If your life points are lower than your opponent's, target one monster you control with Gate Guardian in its original name. Have your opponent's life points, and if you do, that monster gains attack equal to your opponent's life points. You can banish this card from your grave, add one of your elementals that is banished or in your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. So that is not anything to laugh about, especially because you can, if you have the fusion out that can make your opponent's monsters attack 0, this could easily push for a quick OTK, making it 0, giving that monster an attack buff. I mean, there's certainly a lot going on here with this card, and the searching for banishing, because you're already playing these bricks, like I mentioned earlier, is definitely like a solid plus that helps make these a little bit more playable than they would be. So it looks good. It looks like it could help push for game, and it is searchable, so it does have that going for it. And finally, Prey of the Jirai Gumo, another just awesome card from back in the day. Continuous Trap. Special summon this card as a normal monster to your main monster zone in its same column, but it is still also a trap. And of course, Insect, Earth, level 5, 2100 attack, 100 defense, so pretty similar stats to Jiragumo, if not exactly the same. Although I think Jiragumo has 2200 attack, so unless this is a typo, they did go in a slightly different direction. No, I think it might definitely be 2200 looking at the picture, but it is a bit blurry, so I see where people may be confused. But then you can destroy one monster your opponent controls. So you special this, and then you pop something in the column. That's just not bad in general. You can banish this card from your graveyard, add one of your elementals that is banished or in your deck to your hand. So these are all really solid, and of course Labyrinth Wall is searchable by a few things, but your Gate Guardian of Thunder and Wind can get access to any of these new cards, which means you can get access to a pop, you can get access to the stuff to push for game. It's got a lot going for it in terms of the design, and I will say, considering the material they were working with, to be able to take this stuff and make something that's even remotely playable as a functioning unit with only 10 cards added to the archetype is really intriguing to me, and it makes me wish they would continue to do this with a lot of like nostalgia support, whether it's retrains or things of that nature. But let's be honest here, Gate Guardian is not going to suddenly become meta. I will say though, as in terms of like a viable deck you might be able to play at a local level, or even just like a fun deck someone may find a way to make it work to their advantage and play it at or maybe, dare I say, a regional level at some point. Like, could we be looking at that as a possibility with like a shifted format and more ease of access, or things that people find ways to improve the combo lines for the deck or something? That may be a bit lofty thinking, but I do think the deck as a whole will be really fun to play. And of course, who doesn't want to summon Gate Guardian? I just think that is the highlight of this for me, of course, is being able to genuinely bring out one of Yu-Gi-Oh's first and most badass iconic monsters. So let me know what you guys think of this from Maze of Memories. More Maze of Memories content coming as we talk about some of the reprint choices in the set, the collector rares, and all of that. But I thought this was the most important to cover, and I am really, really, like, genuinely excited about it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.